Stephanie Stafford. I'm the Curator of Education here at the Customs House Museum and Cultural Center. I lead tours for over 3,000 kids every school year, and we always get the craziest questions from the kids about the people that they learn. And so I'm very lucky today to have Ben Clark here with us. And so Ben, hi, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie. It's great to be here.
We're so excited to have you here with us here in Clarksville because you're not here anymore. You live in Colorado now?
That's true, Denver, Colorado.
Very good. I get to tour, like I said, almost 3,000 kids throughout the school year. We get to learn about a lot of the sports heroes here, and they love learning about you and your famous climb, and they ask all kinds of questions, and I want to ask you some of those questions. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right, the first one's a doozy. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Did you really climb Mount Everest?
I did, all the way to the top.
Congratulations. So tell us, how did you get interested in rock climbing?
Well, I got interested in rock climbing when some friends introduced it to me when I was at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. So I left Clarksville, went to Knoxville, and once I got there, there were some friends who knew how to rock climb that they had learned in high school and was just at the age where they could also teach me. They had enough experience. So I started to learn with them, and then later I went and did, when I was 18, I went and did a guided climb of Mount Rainier outside of Seattle.
Okay.
One of the higher 14,000-foot peaks. There I got better instruction from real professionals. And so from there, I was able to start to get really the basics down, and I just couldn't kick the habit. It's so much fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. That's exciting. So how old were you when you started climbing?
I was 18 years old. Yeah.
Were you afraid of heights at that time?
I'm still afraid of heights. I don't think that I don't climb today because it took so much effort for me to mentally work my way around how scared of heights I was.
Oh, wow.
And then as soon as I stopped climbing, that fear of heights came right back. And I don't think I'll ever be able to be as comfortable as I once was.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what was the first big mountain you climbed? Was that what you just told me about Mount Rainier?
The first big mountain. Yeah, the first big mountain I climbed was Mount Rainier outside of Seattle. It's 14,410 feet, and it's a giant volcano. So if you can imagine a big frozen volcano, it rose above everything else. It was around almost 8,000 or 9,000 feet higher than all the mountains surrounding it because it was a frozen volcano.
Okay.
Exciting place to visit.
Wow. So there's a lot of questions on mountains. What was the smallest mountain you climbed?
Ooh, I've been to Nebraska's high point. It's pretty flat.
This must be from somebody who was in Alaska. Did you climb Wrangell or St. Elias Range?
I have climbed in the Denali National Park.
Okay.
And I've attempted Denali. I made it to 17,000 feet and spent a week at the high camp there freezing. And then everyone else I was with wanted to leave before good weather showed. Why is
Turned around. What would you say was probably your hardest or most challenging mountain?
The most challenging mountain that I ever faced was named Barunse, and it is in Nepal, and so near Everest. It's actually not that far from Everest. And the things that made it so challenging for us is we were trying to explore a face of the mountain, one side of it, its northeastern side, that had never been climbed.
Oh, wow.
And we went there with skis also. We wanted to climb and ski it. And we met our limits at around 21,600 feet after sending, but we spent 4 nights and 5 days on a ledge that wasn't much bigger than all 3 of our butts.
Oh, wow.
And it was a very dangerous proposition. And I was very lucky to come away from it. And it taught me more about how to move through failure than any other lesson in life I've ever learned.
Oh, wow. That sounds very scary.
It was.
So why did you decide to climb Mount Everest?
I wanted to climb Mount Everest because for me at the time, when I started climbing, I would go to the mountains and I kept just being so curious about why was it the sky so much bluer up there? And then once I got up there and I started to see the bluer skies, I was like, well, what's around that corner? And what is this ice? And now that I'm not cold and I can manage this cold, why can't I do these things?
Yeah.
And I wanted to experience the culture that surrounds Mount Everest, the Sherpa culture. I've always been a big fan of people who are native to a different place and grow up in different places, learning from them. And so getting to learn from them about how it is that they climbed mountains, Everest is a great place to attempt that. And yeah, it just naturally sort of evolved as I figured out it was possible. And then I just kept doing my homework and looking on the internet to figure it out. And nothing ever told me it wasn't going to be something I'd be excited about. And I showed up there and it was harder than I could imagine. There were a lot of things not to be excited about, but I still made the top.
You still did it, right? All right. So once you decided to do it, how long did it take to actually get to go do it?
Yeah, so I decided to do it. And then it took me about 4 years to figure out exactly the process that would lead me there.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to raise money in order to afford to go. I had to develop a lot of skills. I was already a mountain guide, but I wasn't yet a full-time professional climber. And yeah, I mean, it's such a fulfilling process to go through. If you ever want to figure it out, like this is a really amazing thing to try to figure out.
And then what did it take to get there?
Well, it took us about, once we got there, we were in base camp at 16,400 feet and above for 44 days.
Okay.
And then it took us, the actual climb itself, we were doing that so our bodies could adjust to the altitude.
Right.
The climb itself actually only took us about 6 days.
Oh, wow.
And it's about 4 up and then about 2 down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's a long time.
Okay, so was it sunny or rainy? What was the weather like?
The weather on Everest is all over the place. You have the jet stream because it's so high up there in the world, 29,000 feet. The major winds that are far above us that are happening right now are touching down on its mountains at times. So sometimes you'd have major wind that was really difficult. You might have big storms that would sit down on the mountain for 3 or 4 days. They're just like a giant rainstorm or something here that lasts 5 or 6 days. You could have that up there. You can't really do much.
You're just stuck in it.
Changes your life. Yeah, so I mean, those kinds of things are the things that, can certainly affect you greatly, but you just prepare, plan, and if you have to wait it out, that's what you're going to do.
Okay. A lot of questions on the whole process of climbing. So how did you climb it? What did you use to get up the mountain?
Well, we put what's called a crampon on the bottom of our boots. And those are like steel spikes that help you to basically, those exact boots.
Okay.
Crampons are what we would use in order to basically stab the snow and keep good footing. We would use ice axes. Sometimes if it's steep, you might use the pick of the axe in order to make a handhold for yourself.
Okay.
And we would use backpacks. So you got to carry the things that you're going to use to sleep, like your tent, your sleeping pad, your sleeping bag, your stove. All those things were important and critical for that. And then I started out with oxygen on summit day, but I ran out.
Oh.
My mask continued to kind of freeze up. So I think I wasn't supposed to return home with the mask that's in here, but it did, and now you have it. And that mask kept freezing up, and I kept it on my face because the wind that was coming up on the actual day that I was climbing to the summit was so intense that it was safer for me to have my face covered so it didn't get frostbite.
Right.
And I felt like that was a better thing to prepare for than not being able to breathe as well as I could. So it was just very complex, lots of gear and just a healthy attitude toward failure. Things are going to fail around you in that system. And at that moment, you need to decide, is it worth the sacrifice to finish this day? Or would I want to go all the way back to my life and have to try to work my way all the way back here again?
Do you think you would have? If you didn't make it the first time, would you have tried again?
I would have tried it again. I feel that that was a pull, that was a magnetic pull in my life.
You were going to need to hit that summit. Yeah, I love it. All right, so going back to what did you have to wear? Did you have to wear a lot of equipment? How many layers of clothes? What kind of shoes? This is all about the gear now.
So the clothing is really technical. You have to wear very specialized clothing on the mountain. I wore a full down suit for summit day. Underneath that, I had pants, long underwear that were very thick, big like socks that went up to my knees that were really thick. You had boots that were essentially they're double boot. It's like you put on a boot and then put a boot on over that. I had to wear gloves that were almost like wearing boxing gloves. They were a mitten. So you can imagine if you're moving around with ropes and what we call carabiners, things that are attached to the mountain, You have to take that off. So you had a glove on inside of there just to take it off to manage the rope to then put it back on.
Right.
Wearing the oxygen mask, carrying a tank of oxygen in the backpack. The backpack, of course, being where you keep your food, your water, your sleeping bag, your other things. So tons of different gear. I would say that all the things that you would wear on a normal winter day here, just double. Put it on again.
How much did the backpack weigh?
The backpack probably was around 40 pounds, maybe. You know, when I climbed the mountain in 2003, technology was just starting to get so much lighter. Today, it's incredibly light. But it was enabling us at the time because it was half as heavy as it used to be.
Okay.
So we were really lucky. I mean, I was just at the right age where I was sort of strong enough to deal with it and didn't know that it was going to get so much lighter.
Right. A little bit, not the best, but not the worst.
Not the worst.
All right. How do you sleep while you're climbing the mountain?
You know, you bring a sleeping pad, so you have to blow it up with air, and then you will put your sleeping bag on top of that. There isn't always a guarantee that sleep is going to be very good. You know, you're not sleeping on a flat surface. It's not like laying on your bed. You might be on the side of a hill, or you may be sleeping directly on snow. So you have to make sure that the things that you're sleeping in will insulate and keep the cold from coming through the body. And full disclosure, there's been plenty of times I've rolled off that sleeping pad and you pick up pretty fast doing that stuff.
That sounds very dangerous. Don't roll off a mountain.
Don't want to roll off.
All right, lots of questions about eating. Yeah. So, did you eat anything while you're climbing? How did you warm your food? What did you have for breakfast the day you made the summit? And did you drink water?
Okay, well, eating. So I decided, because I wanted to climb with two Sherpa when I climbed Mount Everest, that they must know some things that we didn't know. And part of it is I thought, well, they must be eating different. And they were. And so for me, you know, today, if I were going to climb a mountain, I might take something as simple as gummy bears.
Okay.
Sugar and gummy bears.
Right.
I had some, if you ever had a Haribo Cola, I had some of those on my summit.
Okay.
It's like, you know, it's sometimes you don't want to take the tastes maybe of things that you like from your normal life. It's nice to take those tastes, but you certainly can't carry a can of Coke up there from being frozen. Right. So sometimes things that might remind you of home, or that you might think about when you're not feeling great, you would still be hungry to eat. Yeah. And the two Sherpa that I climbed with, they were eating what was called sampa. And sampa is they would mash it up into kind of a ball, and it was barley, wheat, and honey. Okay. That had just been combined. That's all they ate. And I thought, wow, like they would hand me this little ball of sampa at the beginning of the day, and I could either eat it directly out of my hand, or if I saved it and didn't eat it through the day, right? Yeah. I wouldn't be hungry. Yeah. Then I would come into the tent at night, we would put it into a bowl, and we would just melt it, and then I could have it like poured. Like some more. Okay. You know? Yeah. Yeah, very basic. Wow. And ramen. Okay. When I couldn't eat that. So how did you heat it up? You had little stoves, you said? Little kerosene? Stoves. Yeah, you used just a small stove. Today, you basically would buy a stove, and you would never cook inside of the cup in the stove. You would only use it to warm water, and then combine that with something that in kind of a bag or a package already. Okay. Yeah. Easy. Okay. All right. What did you do when you got to the top of Mount Everest? You know, when I got to the top of Mount Everest, I was really, not with it, not myself, because it had been such a distracting, there's lots of distractions around you, and your brain is not getting the amount of oxygen that you need, right? Even though you think it's fine. And when I got to the top, I was in a very big storm. I had watched the storm build through the morning, and I told my friends just after I got to 28,600 feet and above the top of the second step, I looked at them, and we were in a really difficult situation for making the decision about whether we would go or not. And I got to the top of that particular spot, which had been very difficult to get to. And I looked at them and I said, I am never, ever, ever doing that again. So we go from here. And they were like, okay, he's serious. He's not coming. I knew in my brain, I was like, I will never suffer like that again. Yeah. In my life, if I can help it, I will not. And so we made the top. My summit was in the clouds. It was really high winds. It was a major snowstorm. It was not the moment that I had planned for or had dreamed about. But that is a great lesson in life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just going to complete your goal, and the completing the goal is enough.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the view, it's that you finish.
Yeah.
And so it felt like a really amazing place to finish something and then get started on the rest of my life, which included, of course, surviving the descent.
Right.
Off of the mountain, most important part of it.
Which is one of the questions. How did you get down?
Yeah. Well, so getting down was increasingly more and more difficult as I made my way down, because I had actually gotten some cold damage on my left foot, and I had frozen. I could feel my leg frozen almost halfway up the leg, like nearly to my knee. And so my feet were hurting on my way down, and my oxygen was out. So I had to wake up at 27,200 feet and then just start to descend the mountain the next morning.
Yeah.
And it took me all day long. And I'll never forget some of the most beautiful memories I have on that mountain were just getting to the end and taking those crampons off my shoes, and then just looking at these two gentlemen from the British Royal Navy who had also summited the same summit day as me. And we all just felt a huge relief of no longer having to be in that state of mind of continuing to think I've always got a hard job ahead of me every minute.
Kind of that feeling of going to kiss the ground now, right? You're here, you're landed, you're down.
You fresh food here, and you are no longer taking care of every minute detail.
All right. So you kind of mentioned this earlier, but were you scared?
I was scared.
Yeah.
I think that fear is a very natural, it's a natural thing. It's what keeps me alive. It's why at 46 years old, I'm twice the age I was of when I climbed Mount Everest. And I've done far more dangerous things than Mount Everest. But the key for me was I continued to understand there was going to be a limit. And it wasn't necessarily, I would be scared, but it would be the effect on the people that were with me that would often dictate how seriously I took what we'd gone through was when we were done.
Right.
And that's a great lesson. And sometimes you can be an extremely capable person. Because you should doesn't mean you should. Yeah. Because you can doesn't mean you should. It's very wise to listen to the people around you, build the right community of support that will tell you when you're capable of doing this, but we don't want you to, and listen to that.
Yeah.
And that's the best part of surviving amazing things is you come back to a world that is pretty beautiful and full of great people.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that kind of goes into the sweetest question that we got. Did you bring people along to cheer you up?
Oh, I got to learn from two people who were not in the habit of cheering people up. When I climbed with Lawang Dondup and Lakpa Nuru. Both were born in Tibet. Both were incredible Sherpa climbers. Lakpa Nuru has climbed Mount Everest now, I think, over 20 times. And it was his third time when I climbed it with him. And I'll never forget, I had come all the way from Colorado, had come all the way to base camp, and 9 days from the time that I had come from Colorado, I was at 26,900 feet. That's way too fast for anybody.
Yeah.
And my head was together. I knew where I was. I knew what was going on, which was a major benefit. But my legs felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds each.
Yeah.
And so as I'm going up to 26.9 without any oxygen, which is also not typically what people would do, but my Sherpa friends were like, we're going to show you how it's done. You're going to do this like we do it or not.
Yeah.
And we came back down to camp that night at 23,000 feet. And my friend Lawang, I'll never forget, he was melting the sampa, the porridge that we could make. And he looked at me and he said, I think before you came, maybe you had too many hamburgers.
Brutally honest.
I lost like 40 pounds on that climb. So I knew if I showed up around 190 pounds, I'd go home like 150. And I usually weigh 170.
Yeah.
So I just gambled. I was like, my metabolism, my body will burn all of these calories before I can possibly get this done. And I told him, I said, well, Lawang, I said, I know that's how you feel today, but that's not how I feel. And I promise this will all work out. We've come from Colorado and in 9 days are at 26,900 feet.
Yeah.
And so he kind of understood. He's like, well, nothing will motivate this guy except for himself, and nothing will demotivate this guy except for himself. So he figured out pretty quick, like, you can cheer me on. It may or may not affect me, but if you try to knock me either, I'm not going to listen.
I'm still going to stay on my ground, right? Yeah. All right. What is your favorite part of rock climbing?
My favorite part would be the after. I think feeling a sense of exploring something new and sharing that with somebody who also is equally excited about it or wants to see something different. I think that the process of going through climbing and connecting to nature at such a level where you're touching it. Yeah, I love animals too, and I love to pet animals, but you don't think of yourself as petting the rock, petting the trail. But that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're now in physical contact with the natural world in such a way that's really hard to ignore.
Yeah.
And so I think afterwards, how I feel after I've had that time to really connect with nature, that's the best part, and whether we get to the top or we don't, all those things don't matter as much. You just always look back and remember the friendships and the beauty and just that raw connection to our natural world that we're all born with, but somehow tend to disconnect from as we go.
Okay. Did you ever fall down a mountain?
I've been extremely lucky in that I never actually fell one time.
Oh, wow.
Any mountains. I didn't fall ice climbing. I very rarely fell when it was serious.
Yeah.
We're doing new things people had never done. I never fell. I never actually made any sort of catastrophic mistakes. Now, I saw this happening to other people, and I've rescued people. Big reason I retired is it wasn't me.
Yeah.
I was there, and I had one injury that took me out, but it was on flat ground in base camp. I broke my ankle just 10 feet from cook tent, well under a big mountain later. So I've always been lucky in that I was maybe so intent on being in those moments and not distracted that I was lucky that nothing ever happened to me.
Can you tell the story that you told me the other day about the descent in the nightfall?
Yeah. So one of the more beautiful things about being from the South is fireflies. And, all over the world, it's hard to mentally picture what you're going to go through when you're doing uncertain things. You can look at a picture of a mountain, but being there is so different. And for us, we had been climbing a mountain for almost 70 days. All we had seen was brown rock and snow and ice. And my friend had nearly died on the mountain, and we had to rescue him off of it. And that was out of his control. He had a medical condition. No one ever would have known unless he'd sat for 4 or 5 days on that ledge.
Oh, wow.
And his brain had swelled.
Oh, my gosh.
So we had all bonded very much, and either we were going to leave this guy behind and he was going to be dead, or we were going to continue and we might all die. So by the time we finally saw green trees, which was, a week after that, maybe 10 days after that, you feel this sense of connection to nature and more to the natural world, more to the human world again, because trees are where we are.
Yeah.
That's where we live. And that day we were very motivated to just get back to civilization. We all wanted milk or chocolate, things you definitely can't rehydrate out there. And we were on this day where we were hiking over some big passes. We hiked about 30 miles, and I was ahead of everybody because I was just eager to figure it out, get done. And everyone had kind of left thinking, well, this day, we don't know exactly how long this day is, but it's not going to go on forever. Surely we'll get to where we're going by nightfall. And we didn't. And as we were going, no one had their headlamps. And I was just I was about 15 minutes away from where we were going to be, and twilight had hit. And as the darkness sank, all of a sudden I felt a major sense of calm. All of my anxiety, all of my stress from the climb, all of the crazy, hard emotions that came with saving my friend's life were just gone, because I started to see fireflies just welling up out of the ground. And I'm getting tingles now because it reminded me of being where I'm from.
Yeah.
It took me back to a place of like just a July night right here in Tennessee, looking out my bedroom window where I was as safe as could be, and just seeing that natural world and seeing those little lights, and then thinking, here I am halfway across.
Right.
I'm in the Himalayas of Nepal.
Yeah.
And they have fire.
I didn't know they had lightning bugs out there.
I blew my mind. Wait, I haven't even seen ants. I haven't seen beetles.
Wow.
I haven't seen moths.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any bugs for like 70 days.
Right.
And the first thing that I'm recognizing is fireflies, as we're in this horrible situation that no one really knows if we're going to get to the place where we're going to stay that night. But I just thought, wow, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
I've got fireflies.
I love that. All right. So the second most question that gets asked while they are actually here, and when I tell them that you were the second youngest American to climb to the top, they always want to ask me, who was the first?
Well, Jess Kelly was at that time. Jess was the youngest. Jess and I were great friends. We had been mountain guides together out on Mount Rainier, the tallest mountain in outside of Seattle in Washington. And he and his father were climbing partners. His dad was one of the greatest mountaineers in history, John Ross Kelly. He was one of the first people to summit K2, which is the second highest mountain.
Okay.
More difficult than Everest.
Wow.
And situated in Pakistan. And so his father had climbed that without oxygen. And what was so crazy was that his dad had been a major. He wanted to climb all the big mountains without oxygen, but he didn't want Jess to try to climb Mount Everest without oxygen. He didn't want to climb Mount Everest without oxygen. So Jess was on this expedition with his dad, and Jess and I had not seen each other for like a year because I had moved to Colorado and he was still living in Seattle guiding. And so we had a great time just cheering each other.
Yeah.
And then they found a summit window a day earlier than mine, and they went for it and they made it. And on their way down, we high-fived. And I thought, well, this is great because now there's no pressure for me. If I don't do it, if the weather's not, for whatever reason, It doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. I can't go back in time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just so cool to see him succeed and then for us to be friends for years. But he, unfortunately, perished 6 or 7 years ago in an avalanche in the Rocky Mountains in the Canadian Rockies. And that has been such a big part of why I loved climbing, was the personalities and the people and the camaraderie and the community were amazing. But not many people make it to this age. And, they say there's old climbers and there's bold climbers, but there aren't any old bold climbers. And I have only seen that be true.
So you did retire and you live in Colorado now. So the number one question I get asked by visitors is not true. That is not you hanging up here every single day, is it?
No, you have not entombed me. Not yet.
I tell them we don't pay you to stay up there every single day during the museum hours.
No, those residuals will be, you guys have, I got a big family now.
All right. So now they wanted to get a little personal. So what have you done since climbing?
Well, since climbing, when I retired from the major mountain climbing in the Himalayas, I spent a decade pioneering new routes and rock and ice climbs and ski descents in the Himalayas until I was 32. Then my son Charlie was born, and no one could believe when I clicked out of my skis at 18,000 feet for the last time that was the last time. I just clicked out and I said, guys, I'm going to announce tomorrow what's going on. And we went down to base camp, and then they said, well, what was your announcement? And I said, I'm done. And
that was it.
You could believe it. But I said, well, I'm still going to run. I like running.
Yeah.
And I was a runner when I was in school, at the Clarksville Academy
as
well. And so I started to ultramarathon run. And then because I was a storyteller and because I'd always been an artist my whole life, I'd always had a day job. I'd been working in media. I was a publisher of a paper. I'd already been making films. In 2016, my goal, because you can't climb high mountains in the country of Bhutan, but the Bhutan is still in the Himalayas, and you're allowed to run across what was the world's hardest trek. So I ran across the world's hardest trek with two of the best ultramarathon runners in the world at that time.
Okay.
People who would consistently win 100-mile races.
Yeah.
We set a speed record running across the world's hardest trek, and we made a movie about it, and that went into over 400 theaters, and that actually ended up being my big break into how it is that I'm now a Hollywood film director, was from that.
That's incredible. It all just kind of rolled together there, didn't it?
Yeah, final chapter of my life in the outdoors, so I thought.
Yeah.
And what it led to was the ability to take that skill to look at the outside, to know how to tell the story of how beautiful and amazing the outside can be, but instead of celebrating big athletic accomplishments and goals of either myself and my partners, now I'm behind the camera and I want to celebrate the people that are working with land and are out there, that are biologists working with the foxes that you see and the deer and the bears and the mountain lions. Like, those people to me are just like me, and they love being outside too. And the animal is how it is that they are able to keep their career going, whereas I had the mountain to keep mine going.
Right.
So I've been very lucky to continue to build community around me that loves the outdoors, and then to be able to, when it's appropriate, champion their cause and tell their stories and to allow them to reach a lot more people with their great messages instead of that.
Well, that's great. I love how the two things get to merge together to create a new path for you. So that worked out really well.
The best way of life is if you're, you kind of learn if you don't force the things that you're good at and you continue to really work hard at them, especially as an artist, because growing up in Tennessee, in the 80s and 90s, the opportunities to be an artist, like you could be an architect, you could maybe be a graphic designer.
Right.
And today you can be all kinds of things just from your house.
Yeah.
And I needed to leave to do things that required geography in order for me to do them. But as a filmmaker or storyteller today, or someone just wanting to explore their world, you can do it all from their phone. So it's amazing to me that this all came together.
Yeah.
And that I get to be lucky to have not only an amazing chapter of exploration, but an amazing chapter in a completely separate career. And to be in that position and able to help the people who aren't necessarily the best at telling their story. It's the coolest job on earth,
That's great. All right. Now we're getting really personal. Do you like cats?
I love cats. Cats, if I could have a house full of cats, I would do it. I also love dogs. So I know there's probably some people who aren't going to think those need to be
separate, right?
Separate from each other.
Either or, yeah.
But I'm going to say that they live together pretty well. Right. My daughter's allergic to both, so I have neither.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so the cats I get to see are like mountain lions with collars on. I go find a 150-pound cat now and get to pet them when they're asleep.
When they're asleep. Only when they're asleep. What do you like to eat?
My favorite thing to eat is pizza. Yeah, flat out. My wife, we lived in New York together for a little while.
Okay.
And my wife's favorite thing is pizza. And you can't live in New York without, when you've had pizza that's the best in New York, you will convert fully to pizza from then on.
All right.
Hot wings are a close second.
Okay. All right. But you make documentaries, but what is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is Empire of the Sun. Have you heard of that one?
I have.
Yeah, it's a Steven Spielberg film, and Christian Bale, who I thought was an amazing actor when I saw this film as a child. I think I saw this film in the theaters.
I was like, it was a long time ago.
It's an obscure Spielberg film, and even more obscure for Christian Bale.
Yeah.
But I loved the journey. That journey that he took through that, the separation from his parents felt a lot like connected to me as a kid. And it's when I left here, I very much was okay with leaving my family and going on this epic journey like Christian Bale did in that film, just sort of knowing hopefully someday we all reconnect again. But this crazy world that he was introduced to, that's kind of been my experience.
Yeah.
It's like I found the Americans out there in the middle of the war, or it didn't matter. Someone was always going to be there that if I made the attempt to understand their culture, I would be allowed to go through life and learn and be a part of their community. And so I always enjoy that film.
That's great.
Yeah.
But you like Star Wars too, didn't you?
I think Star Wars is awesome. The newer ones, I don't know why they went back and changed them.
Yeah.
But the newer ones, I think they're just great storytelling. Yeah. And they're big and they're accessible.
Yeah.
We need to have films that are a cultural moment where everyone comes together and talks about it and sees it.
Right. Yeah. So I'd say probably about 95% of these questions were all from kids right here in Clarksville, from public school and private schools, from kindergarten all the way up through 5th grade. They've all submitted some questions. And part of what we talk about here in the sports gallery, the hand gallery, is about hopes and dreams. So I was wondering if you could just wrap it up here, if you could maybe just give them a message about, how hoping and dreaming and goals, future, what could you tell them?
If you think you can do something, you're right. If you don't think you can do something, you're right. And you have to figure out which one of those rights you want to be, Yeah. I think if you don't believe, no one else will. And that's really the central tenet to life. If you believe that it's possible and you continue to find the ways that it's possible and you can express that to other people, you will get there. Whatever it is, you want to solve the big problems in the world, start asking for other people to help. Yeah. Be unafraid to go into the world and to recognize that you believe, and the moment that you don't believe, you feel bad, you figured it out. is exactly like. And then, if you can keep that, if you can continue to keep that about you, to not let the distractions and the temptations get in the way of the things that you believe in, then it's very difficult for those things not to happen. It's almost impossible because you aren't giving in to the reasons that everyone else might not want to do it. And you may be the one to figure out it is possible.
Yeah.
And so you just have to try. And maybe you spend your whole life trying, but that's better than giving up before and proving that you were right, that it wasn't possible before you even started. You learn nothing there.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you, Ben, for coming to talk to us today.
Thank you.
Answering all these questions from the kids.
It's been great to get to be here.
Thank you.